Bula. Keep an eye out for A Disappearance in Fiji, coming out in June, my debut novel. A Disappearance in Fiji is set in Fiji in 1914, which is when Fiji is a fledgling colony of the British Empire, and Indians are being brought out by the shipload to work in the cane fields under fairly exploitative contracts, which is how my great-grandparents came to Fiji, and why I wrote the book, really. So it follows the story of Sergeant Akal Singh, who is a young police officer who's been sent to Fiji in disgrace and who's not having a very good time of it. So he is sent out to a plantation to investigate the disappearance of a female indentured servant, an Indian indentured servant, and while he's there, he witnesses the harshness of life for the indentured servants, and has to confront his own prejudices in order to be able to solve the case. This is the book. I think it looks beautiful. I'm really looking forward to publication. So my goal was to write a book that you could read on the beach. So it's intended to be a fun read and learn a little bit about the history of the country. The protagonist through the series is Sergeant Akal Singh. So he's a young Sikh police officer who has started his career with, flying colours in Hong Kong, and then he gets himself into trouble in Hong Kong and gets sort of exiled to Fiji in disgrace. And once he gets to Fiji, he's not having a very good time. He's not popular with his Inspector General because the Inspector General knows why he's been, sent from Hong Kong in disgrace and doesn't really want him there. But this was a deal brokered between the governors of the two colonies, so he's sort of stuck with him. And he starts to redeem himself a little bit in the first book, but still he's still not in favour. There was an indentured labour program which shipped Indians from Fiji all over the world. It's why you see so many Indians in places like Jamaica and Trinidad and Tobago and Mauritius and Fiji. And South Africa, so they went to, I think South Africa, it was to build the railways. In a lot of these other island nations, it was about sugarcane plantations. And it was still part of the British Empire. The British Empire had outlawed slavery. But they still wanted cheap labour force for their colonies. A lot of these colonies depended on it. So Fiji, there was a perception that the economy of the colony would not survive without the cheap labour. And there was sort of a positive motive to it, an altruistic motive to it, in that there was a lot of famine and poverty in Fiji at the time, in India at the time, rather. So this was seen as an opportunity. And to be fair, I'm probably better off because my great-grandparents went to Fiji. But in the moment, it was a very exploitative program. So the people who were signing up for this program were generally illiterate. They were very, very poor, and they were desperate. They were signing up to a contract that they couldn't read. So it was being explained to them by people who were paid to get bums on seats. Lies about how easy the work would be and that sort of thing. And of course, they'd get to Fiji. They had no freedom. They were told which plantation to go to. Friends were split up. I don't think they split up families, but friends, you didn't have a choice. And suicide rate was relatively high. Not to say that you could survive it, but it was hard. My day job is generally in IT, and I do a lot of contract work. So basically, I will have a contract, and then when I'm between contracts, I will take the opportunity to write. And when I am working as well, I will be writing, just less. So at the moment, I'm not day jobbing. So at the moment, I'm a full-time writer, which is bliss. In the past, when I've tried to be a full-time writer, I've found it really challenging. But this time, it's great. I'm really enjoying it. I've always thought that I couldn't write at home. COVID taught me that I could because I really didn't have anywhere else to write. So I did start to learn how to write at home. I find it much easier to write away from home. My preferences are libraries. So I spend a lot of time at the State Library. I've recently discovered, I hope I'm saying this right, Nam Nagu, the new library near the Queen Victoria Markets. Docklands Library, East Melbourne Library is gorgeous. So yes, I am a library nerd. Okay, my lucky dip questions. Are there any literary characters that have stuck in your mind? A really obvious one is Hercule Poirot. I often go to sleep to Hercule Poirot because I go to sleep listening to Agatha Christie novels because they're generally read in some like soothing British accent that, and I generally know what's happened because I've read them all before. So I have this affection for Hercule Poirot because he is such a distinct character as well and so recognizable. And I think also his screen portrayals have been very distinct. So I think we all have a very strong sense of his voice and his look. Part of my reason for wanting to write about that time in Fiji and the indentured labour program is because it's part of my heritage, but also it is still a topical issue. There's still Indians being exploited and other developing nations, people who are being exploited in places like Qatar to build the World Cup stadium and things like that. So I think it's still a relevant issue, and I wanted to bring it to the world in a way that's I don't tend to read improving tracts. Like I don't tend to read a lot of deep, grim books. So this was my way of expressing an issue, but in a way that I felt was more easily consumable.
My older sister and I, we would get in trouble for reading too much. Like, this is not a thing that I think is very common, that kids get in trouble for reading too much. We would get in trouble. We'd be told you have to put the books down. There's other things to do. Go out and do some chores, go out and play, that sort of thing. You can't just spend all your time reading. So I think it was just that we were such avid readers, both Karishma and I, that for me it felt very natural to want to then tell the stories as well, not just read them.
How long did it take for you to do your research?
Research and writing, years. So I spent 2 months in Fiji in 2016 doing some research. I spent a lot of time at the National Archives. I spent some time at USP, just learning more about that history. Professor Bridgelal, I read a lot of his books, and then started. So research, that was the main round of research that I did, but also I kept going back. There's some resources in Australia as well, so I would go to the libraries here and look here as well. So yes, the first book research mainly in that first 2 months, but then it took me years to write it because I didn't know what I was doing. It's a huge project writing a book, and I had only written short stories before, so this was my first time trying to write something this length. So yeah, I initially wanted to have my detective. I knew it was going to be a crime novel because I wanted a historical fiction, and I wanted something, as you said before, I wanted something easy to read. I wanted something that was accessible for people. So I wanted crime fiction, so I had to have a detective. I initially tried to have my detective be a young indentured labourer girl, and sort of came to the conclusion that she couldn't investigate anything because she's got no time. She's basically next thing to a slave. She can't investigate a crime. She's got no time to investigate a crime. So in the end, I realised I needed to have a police officer. And doing my research, looking at the Fiji Times, I learnt about these Sikh police officers who were sent over from Hong Kong to sort of help start the Fijian police force. So that's who my main character is based on, the idea of these Sikh police officers who were sent over. My backstory for my protagonist, Prakal Singh, is different. He's not being sent over in the same way that the real Hong Kong police officers were sent over, but that was where I got the inspiration for having the idea of, oh, this Sikh police officer sent over from Hong Kong.
Now, what is your advice? Because I know there's some young listeners listening in who are aspiring writers who want to write or already in the space. What would you advise them? Any simple rules or anything that you want to share to them in terms of writing?
I would say one thing is write. Don't be put off by, when I started writing, I would write something and then I'd go, oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. Why am I even bothering? There's, I read this thing and I thought it just resonated so strongly. It was, as an early writer, as a novice writer, your taste is better than your ability. So you have to just keep writing. You will get better. Don't worry that the first thing you write sounds terrible. The most important thing is just to keep writing. If you've got something written, you can edit it. If you keep just crossing it out and throwing it away, then you're never going to get anywhere. So keep writing, push through. Don't let your internal critic shut you down. That's probably my biggest piece of advice.
You know, a word of encouragement to those who are listening in for our people to start writing our stories, you know, writing our stories, whether in Hindustani, in Rotuman and Fijian. What would you like to say to that?
Yeah, I think it's such a powerful thing to, you know, academic texts, they can teach you, but they don't, you don't feel it here. Like, I feel like writing, creative writing is where you feel it in your heart and it becomes more than facts and figures that you're learning. It becomes a story that resonates. So I think telling those stories is so valuable as a method of keeping our history and keeping our culture.